Don't forget to check out the Social Oddities on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. T-shirts are now available to all our podcast fans. They're available in a variety of different colours and also in different sizes. Keep in contact, follow, like, and share. Let all your friends know to listen to the Social Oddities podcast.
It's the Social Oddities podcast, coming at you from 5 parts of the UK, all for one reason: the amazing world of wrestling.
I've never seen a crowd so fired up, JR. They know what's coming next. They can't wait to get started, and neither can I.
Good evening, guys, and welcome to episode 25 of the Social Oddities podcast. We are joined by regular host Steve.
Hello.
And the banger bad boy, your nan's favourite wrestler, Amir Jordan.
Hello. How are we all?
Very good, thank you, very good.
Yes, great.
Brilliant.
I think we've been trying to get you on since July, but things haven't worked out, have they? So it's great to finally have you on.
It's been a while, hasn't it? It's been a while trying to get on, but we're here finally.
I mean, I think last time you couldn't come on because you had some lame excuse that you were at Pete Dunne's seminar.
Yeah, just a spot. Well, that was it. Yeah, the small matter of a Pete Dunne seminar. Just me trying to get good at wrestling. That's all.
No, that's quite a good excuse. I mean, you mentioned trying to get good at wrestling, but what actually got you into wrestling?
For me personally, I mean, what in terms of watching wrestling or wrestling?
Well, what got you in terms of watching wrestling, and then obviously progressing into actually wrestling?
Yeah, sure. Probably 7. Yeah, I was 7 years old, or 6 actually. I might have been 6. My sister brought home VHS of SummerSlam '97 because my granddad, who has now passed away, used to love wrestling. He was a massive fan, and I had no idea what it was. I'm 6 years old, and I just remember watching the main event of that. It was Bret Hart against Undertaker with Shawn Michaels as special guest referee. And yeah, I just remember that, and that's just something that stuck with me ever since then. And then, ever since after that, really, 6 years of age, I'd always try and find ways of watching wrestling. We didn't really have satellite TV. We got Sky quite late as well, and even when we did get Sky, we never got Sky Sports or anything. So it was always until YouTube and the internet got big, which I would say for me personally was mid-2000s. It was always a struggle to try and find wrestling where I could, especially I've got 2 older sisters as well, so it's it was really hard trying to fight for TV time between whatever they were watching, which is probably Charmed or something, and then there's me trying to watch some wrestling, trying to fight with them. So it was always a struggle up until I would say probably 2006, 2007, where I discovered things like Daily Motion and YouTube and stuff, and online wrestling stuff when we had the computer. So yeah, I would say that's probably the inception of it, really.
What you mentioned then, obviously, so you'd been 16, probably 2006, 2007. Then obviously, what made you decide then to start wrestling?
Well, I mean, I always wanted to do it. When I was 18, 19, I kind of looked into a few schools and stuff, but it was never anything too serious in terms of actually going out and doing it. Just from the background that I come from and stuff, it's not really the done thing. I'm from a very traditional Pakistani household, right? So it's not really something that you do. So it's kind of I looked into it and then I kind of forgot about it. I went to uni, I went to work and stuff, and it's probably around about 23 years of age where I thought, well, I've got a bit of an education, I've got a bit of a career, so let me try and do this thing that I've always had in the back of the mind that I always wanted to try and do, but never really have the guts to go ahead and do it. So that was really it. That was really the decision. I was living in London at the time, and I was working out there and stuff. And then I was just right, okay, let me get in shape and stuff, and let me try and actually give this. I went into wrestling with a proper plan of right, I'm going to train, I'm going to try and have a match, and then let's just take it from there. To be honest, initially my main aim was let me just get in the ring just for a session. And then after that, it was just one thing leads to another. So I initially started training at the Pro Wrestling School in Brixton at the Projo, which is now known as Knuckle Locks Gym. That's where really I started for the first 6 months. But yeah, that was really the thought process in terms of actually getting into it, just being getting to that certain age where I was just like, right, well, if I don't try this now, I'll probably never try. I'll probably regret it when I'm 40, 45, whatever. So let's just go ahead and do it. And really, to be honest, one thing's just led to another. And I don't know. I've got a long way to go yet still, but it's just kind of happened, hasn't it?
So you mentioned obviously your background, obviously from a Muslim background. How did your family react when you said to them, I want to be a wrestler?
Well, I didn't tell them for the longest time, if I'm completely honest. I didn't tell anyone, even my mates and stuff. I kept it really quiet until I had my first match. And when I finished off with the pros, I did 6 months there. I always had plans to go out to Canada and train with Lance Storm. So when you're making that move, people are going to be asking, well, why is it that you're going to Canada? So I kind of had to let the cat out of the bag, really. My family initially, with my parents and stuff, they were a bit. They thought it was unusual, obviously, because it is. Whatever background you're from, it is an unusual thing to try and go into when you look at it in terms of the bigger picture and stuff. But they've kind of gotten used to it a little bit now because they see that I'm doing somewhat okay in it, and I enjoy it, and it's something that I love doing. So they're pretty supportive. My siblings, which I'm quite close to as well, were always supportive. To be honest, they've probably been my biggest supporters. My two older sisters and my younger brother and stuff. They're all for it. They've come to a show before and stuff, and they really enjoy all the stuff that goes on online and stuff, videos and stuff. They're always sharing it and showing it to their mates and stuff. So that's really nice to see. With my parents specifically, it's just they kind of just let me do it, and I'm happy with it. So yeah, I don't know if they'll ever come to watch a show or whatever. But just as long as they're happy to see me do it, then that's all that matters to me, really.
If they ever do come to a show, do not let them come to a Rise show.
Oh no, they're not allowed. They're not allowed. It's going to be a family-friendly show. It's going to be a family-friendly show. Yep, 100%. They can't come to a Rise show. No.
Obviously, you mentioned that you went to Canada. You went to Lance Storm's school.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question from Rich, who we know. He asked, do you have any stories about Lance Storm?
Overall, the whole Lance Storm experience was amazing. I ended up spending 6 months out in Canada. 3 of those months were training every single day in, day out with Lance. Lance is an interesting type of guy. He's got a very dry sense of humour. And he's got a very specific, sense of humour that not everyone kind of understands and gets. Absolutely amazing trainer. Very patient with everyone. And I never saw him raise his voice, no matter how many times we all messed up on stuff during training. In terms of specific stories, I always enjoyed him telling us stories about the time when, he was on the road, and stories about, he'd always have really good stories and really fond memories to tell about Chris Candido, and he held Fit Finlay in the biggest, highest regard. In his mind, and I think many of us will agree, Finlay was one of the best workers of all time. But yeah, I always enjoyed him telling us stories. There'd be times where we'd do a 3-hour session, and then after that session, he would just go on a big, it'd go into a completely cul-de-sac about stories from back in the day, and he'd go on for 45 minutes to an hour, and he'd always be I might sound like I'm talking your ear off here, stop me whenever you want. And I always was just well, this is why I've travelled halfway around the world. You keep talking, pal. I'm listening. I'm all ears. So if he could have talked for 3 hours after the session, and I would have still been listening, because it was just great. It was just great to hear his point of view and stuff, and listen to his stories and stuff. That's why I was there.
Did you go out there on your own or with others?
I went out there completely by myself. I didn't know anyone. Obviously, I ended up becoming really good friends with all the guys in my class. We had 12 guys. All of us ended up becoming friends. He owns a house out there. So we all ended up staying in his house. There was 5 of us that ended up staying in his house that we rented off him. So as well as being our trainer, he was my landlord for 3 months as well, which was pretty cool. But yeah, I went out there completely not knowing anyone. But very soon we ended up becoming really good mates with everyone in the class, and there was a promotion out there called PWA that ran shows, so I'd always go around there and help out and stuff. I ended up wrestling for them a little bit in the 3 months post Lance. And then I've made a load of friends out of that as well. And like just throughout that 6-month period, I made loads of good friends just around Canada, just like driving around and wrestling at different places.
Is there anyone who was in the school at the same time as you who will have heard of, or?
There's a lad called, I don't know if you've heard of him, there's a British wrestler, he's called Lewis Howley, recently seen on First Dates.
Oh, I did see that.
Any of you guys there?
The girl stood him up halfway through, didn't she?
The guy, yeah, that's the one. So Lewis Howley was, he was in my class. I met him out there at Lancers. Off First Dates fame. But yeah, he's probably the only guy out there that you'll know in terms of like British wrestlers and stuff. Me and him, and there was another lad who were from the UK, but like he's not really ended up wrestling much after that.
Wicked. You say that. It's probably only this week that I've actually heard of him.
Lewis he's a hell of a wrestler. He's so young as well. He's like 19 years old. It's ridiculous. He's been wrestling for like 4 or 5 years. He was easily the best guy in our class in terms of like talent and natural ability. Give him time, give him a few years, everyone's going to know about him. It's just because he is that good in the ring. His First Dates probably helped him in terms of like getting known and stuff. Clearly it has, because obviously you said you didn't know who he was a week ago, and now you do. And like that's the power of social media and like media generally in itself. And like all he needs now is an opportunity to show what he can actually do in the ring. And like he's going to be one of those guys where if he sticks with wrestling, like sky's the limit for him, just because he's that good. He is very good. He's a very good wrestler.
Yeah. I actually read it on Mad Bible about him, and it just said wrestler and stripper. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, I saw that. It's pretty cool that he got onto like Mad Bible and stuff as
well. Steve, have you got anything at the minute?
Yeah, I was obviously just interested in listening to some of the stories there about going over to Canada. You mentioned you've also had some experience at the Projo. Who was in your class over here in England?
Oh, yeah, of course. So I spent 6 months out there, and it was like the way the Projo works, or as it's known now, Knuckle Locks, like they've got classes 7 days a week. And like I like to think I took full advantage of that, wherever possible, I was at that gym just training. So I got to know a lot of the guys there. I got to make really good friends. In terms of like the class that I started, I remember like our beginners class had 18 or 19 people in it. And if I look back now, who's actually on the scene wrestling, there's myself and there's a girl called Chikara. I don't know if you know what Chikara is.
Yeah, so I think she was at the Progress women's tournament last week. Week before.
Yeah, she was in the women's tournament last week, and then she did quite a few. Like she's getting a name out there as well. I think it's just myself and her from our beginners class when we all actually started when we were new. That's actually gone on to wrestle. Everyone else seemed to like drop off a little bit. But yeah, like I was there with like quite a few other people that are on the scene now. The girl Candy Floss as well. She started just before I did, just like probably like I would say like 6 or 7 weeks before I started. She's getting herself like out there, and like there were always guys at that time who were getting established on like the bigger shows that would turn up to training. That'd be really good to like train with guys like Chuck Mambo and Pascal Meaver, Damon Moser, Earl Black Jr. All these guys, like they would always like come to classes and stuff, and it was really good to like see where they were going, because like obviously that's where I aimed to get to. So it was good to see guys like that. And like it was just a really good group of trainers there as well. Like Darryl Allen was like the guy that taught me like my basics and stuff. And just when it came to like, I mean, he taught us like the wrestling stuff, but he also sat us down and talked to us about like the wrestling business and how to conduct yourself, and like, you know, little things like, even if you're going to a show where you're not booked, always bring your gear, because you never know when they can put you on if they need anyone, or like, you know, even little things like discussing wages and having professional gear and like giving us contacts for promotions and stuff. Like he was really good with stuff like that. Like I can't say enough about like how much he helped me in those 6 months.
Okay, well, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. You were mentioning about some of your trainers there and things like that. Who stuck out? who was teaching some of the classes? Because I know you've mentioned that Darrell Allen, who's obviously a very good trainer up there. Was there any of the wrestlers who are on the UK scene at the moment taking some of the classes as well?
Sorry, say that again?
Was some of the wrestlers on the UK scene taking some of the classes at the Projo as well?
Oh,
Maybe
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
classes and things like that.
Do I what? Sorry, you cut off there for a second. What's just the last bit?
The intermediate classes and things like that. I've read a few stories where some of the wrestlers said they were asked to take over a few classes and they really enjoyed getting involved and getting their hands dirty with it as well.
Oh, yeah. Like, we'd always have, like, guys, like, I remember when I was starting out, we had guys like Earl Black Jr. and Damon Moser come out and help us out and, like, give us tips and stuff, like, I remember, like, even, like, Jack Sexsmith, like, these guys would, like, they'd be part of the class, but, like, you'd get to learn from them, just, like, the little experience, because obviously a lot of those guys 2 years ago were quite inexperienced themselves, but, like, they were more experienced than I was, so anytime you speak to someone who's done more wrestling than you have, you can always learn. I mean, to be honest, you can always learn from anyone in wrestling, but especially guys that have been out there and, like, that are really, like, traveling the path that you want to travel, so, like, it was really good having those guys around. And I like to think, like, I got to know those guys quite well. And, like, it's really good to see where they are right now in wrestling. And, like, likewise, I like to think the other way as well, where, like, every time I speak to them, they're always, like, very complimentary of, like, seeing me get bookings around, you know, and getting, like, starting to make a name for myself a little bit as well. So, yeah, like, that was, like, the first group of guys, really, that I got to know in wrestling. So, like, it's one of those things, like, this last week at Empire in Sunderland, like, I met, like, Chuck Mambo and Damon Moser, and, like, it's always good to see them because they always meet me really well, and we always get along, and we always talk about, like, you know, what we're all doing in terms of wrestling and stuff. So it's really good to catch up with those guys, just to see them getting around, and, like, I've had a couple of bookings down in London, and, like, it's always good to see them. Or, like, anytime, like, I get the opportunity to work with guys like that, like, I got to have a match with Darrell Allen at Pro Wrestling Legion in Chester earlier on this year, and that was a big one for me, just because, like, Daz helped me quite a lot at the start, like, you know, when I was, you know, this was even before I'd even, like, wrestled a match or whatever, so it was really good to, like, wrestle him. And then I got to wrestle body guy Roy Johnson at Tidal in Leeds as well, and that was another good one, because I remember, like, my second or third class, like, Roy was, like, he came just to help out with the class and stuff, but, like, that's when he was very new as well, because he's not been wrestling long at all, you know what I mean? Like, he's probably only been in the wrestling business just a little bit longer than I am, and, like, to see what he's gone on to achieve and stuff has been, you know, it's been pretty amazing. So it's, like, it's really good to see these guys from when they were at training to where they are now.
I think I was actually at that match at Tidal. It was a decent match.
Yeah, it was all right. It was good. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, man. Like, it was great. It was just, like I said, it was just really cool to be in there with him, having a match with him, especially, like, after the WWE thing that he did, and, like, me having gone and travelled, you know, to Canada for 6 months and then coming back up north and moving up north, and him coming up from London, and then, like, obviously was having that match. It was pretty cool. It was really nice. Like, I'd love to, like, wrestling again as well. He's just got such a good character about him, and, like, you know, he plays, like, he's coming over, like, leaps and bounds, and, like, obviously he's getting himself out there as well down south, so it's great to see.
I think you mentioned, obviously, that you wrestled for Tidal. I obviously mentioned that you wrestled for Rise. Do you ever fancy a hardcore match for Rise?
Say that again?
Would you ever have a hardcore match with Rise?
If the situation demanded it, and if the right situation presented itself, then I'd do anything. If it was just, like, a hardcore match just to say that I'd done it, probably no. Everything in the right context, right? Everything in the right situation, absolutely.
Fuck that, no chance.
Hey, like I said, never say never. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
It's always the chopsticks that get me with Michael Caden. No.
Oh God, yeah, I saw that live. I saw that from the back. That was disgusting.
In fact, I don't even think they're chopsticks, are they? What are they?
Sorry?
The skewers. They're not even chopsticks. Like,
they were skewers. They were legit. They were legit skewers that were poked into his forehead.
Yeah. I saw when they were cleaning the ring afterwards. I picked one up and I was like, oh.
Yep. Go watch that video. That's on the Rise. It's on the Rise channel. There, it's probably the one that's got the most views as well on their channel. Yes, no, that looked painful.
Yeah,
that looked very painful.
So if you could choose anybody off the UK scene to have a match with, in fact, no, if you could choose anyone on the UK scene to have a hardcore match with, who would it be?
Jimmy Havoc. He'd twat me. It'd be great.
In fact, the first time I ever saw you, you were Jimmy Havoc's replacement at Tidal.
Yeah, that would have been it. Yeah, because he got injured, and that was my first match, and I'd literally, again, going off one of the lessons that Darryl Allen taught me, I turned up to the show. That was actually, ironically enough, I'd done the show at Pro Wrestling Region where I wrestled Darryl, and I travelled to Tidal thinking, it's in Leeds, it's close to where I might just pop in and just, watch the show. And then I get there with my gear, and all the lads are like, yeah, you're wrestling HC Drake in the main event because Jimmy's hurt his collarbone. And I was like, all right, lads, good rib that, nice one. I'll be there watching the show. And then they were like, no, we're not joking. You're in the main match. And I sat there thinking, well, these guys have never seen me before. They don't really know who I am. And to be honest, I mean, this was probably 7 or 8 months ago, but at that time, no one really knew who I was, if I'm completely honest. But I went out there and did the best I could, I guess. It was an interesting situation to be in, but I enjoyed it. It was really good. But yeah, Jimmy's one of the guys, one of the first probably the first British wrestling show that I went to was a show that I was doing ring crew for when I was down at Progress. It was my first show, literally 5-6 weeks into training, where Darryl said, we need a few guys to go help do ring crew, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. So I was starting the ring crew, and it was the match that stood out to me the most from that show was the match that Paul Robinson and Jimmy Havoc had, the hardcore match. I don't know if any of you guys have seen that, but it's ridiculous. It's ridiculously good, and very painful to watch. But this is me, not really having watched much of British wrestling, stood on the sidelines, stood on the side of the ring watching all this happen. But yeah, Jimmy's, when it comes to stuff like that, he's pretty much the guy, isn't he? There's other guys coming up as well when it comes to hardcore wrestling, but it's not really my cup of tea personally. But yeah, if you were to ask me, he'd probably be the guy that I'd want to be in there with, just because he's cool. Yeah.
All right, okay. Moving away from hardcore wrestling, who is the one British guy you'd like to just wrestle?
Oh, there's too many. I've gotten the chance to wrestle quite a few guys that I wanted to wrestle, but God, I could list off a bunch of guys, to be honest with you. Joe Connors, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, El Ligero, who surprisingly I've not wrestled against. I've wrestled with him, but I've not really wrestled against him in a one-on-one. Nathan Cruz, who I've done a little bit with, but I've not had a full match with him. But there's too many. There's too many, man. Everyone. Rampage Brown. Probably regret saying that, but yeah, Rampage Brown as a one-on-one would be awesome. God, there's so many guys. A lot of the guys from the Midlands, I did a little bit on the council, Flash Morgan Webster and the Wild Ball, Mike Hitchman as well. Those guys I'd love to be in there with in a one-on-one match. God, the list is endless, mate. I've mentioned a bunch of guys there, but there's too many. There's just so many good wrestlers in this country right now. Even if I get to wrestle half the guys that I wanted to, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I mean, you touch on Ligero. I know obviously he trains as well. Have you ever trained under Ligero?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, absolutely at Grapple. It's one of the first places. So last July is when I moved back from Canada to the UK. Back up north to Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, which is where I'm from originally. And the closest school to us is Grapple, which is in Morley, which is probably about a 25-minute drive from my house. So yeah, I did a lot of training there with Marty Jones and El Ligero as well. Those guys train out there. So yeah, those two were the first two guys that I trained under when I first moved back to the UK. Ligero's great person to train under. Having El Ligero and Matty Jones as two trainers at the same time, going to them twice a week, it's great because you get two completely different sides of wrestling from them. So and they're both brilliant in their own ways and their own separate ways. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Ligero, I think every time I see a match, I don't think I've gone away thinking that were a shit match. You know what I mean? But always.
Oh yeah, no, it's consistently. It's probably one of the most consistent guys in the country.
Yeah, and I think the best matches I've probably seen have been him versus me. I must have seen a match 5 or 6 every time. I go away thinking, "Fuck, yeah, that was an awesome match."
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's great. No, he is. He really is one of the best around. It's great.
I mean, what have you got coming up locally in around West Yorkshire? Next?
I've got I wrestle for a company called BWE. That are based in West Yorkshire. They've got a bunch of shows coming up in like Halifax and Bradford. I've actually got a show for them on Saturday. Rise is always doing a show. Like Rise, I've got a couple of shows coming up at the Brudenell, and like Ivy Studios in Leeds. I like to think I'm a bit of a mainstay at Rise as well. So like chances are I'll always be on one of their shows. Tidal, again, one of the companies that I've wrestled a bit for as well. I'll have stuff coming up for them before the end of the year as well. Grapple as well. Grapple and True Grit Wrestling run as well, in like the region as well. So like the West Yorkshire region is quite good. Like there's quite a few decent companies popping up in this region. So yeah, I like to think I've hit all the main ones so far, which is pretty good.
You mentioned Rise. You were part of the recent Rise invasion in TNT in Liverpool. Is it true?
Yeah.
Is it true you played your theme song on repeat all the way there?
Not me, not by choice. So everyone's loving this theme tune, right? And for me, it's something that like that's the kind that I've been hearing that song since I was a kid, because it's like, especially like in the Asian community, it's like a mainstay. It's like one of the classic tunes from like back in the day. I get to hear it enough, to be honest, when I go out and do my entrance. So for me personally, like it probably wasn't me that put it on, but I'm sure other people that were in that van wanted to hear that.
I was in the other van, and that's the rumour I heard.
That's the rumour you heard. The rumour you heard was that I put my theme tune on the whole way to Liverpool, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not true. That's not true. I don't know who's told you that.
It'd probably been better than the music Seb had on in our bus. So.
No, we had a variety of really good tunes on. I was actually playing DJ, and I like to think I did a pretty good job. But yeah, I will say though, this Barocca advert has given my interest team a lot of good publicity. Every day on Twitter, it seems like there's always someone new on Twitter saying, "Oh, love that Barocca advert. It reminds me of Amir Jordan," which is pretty cool. Just to say that now, that it's got to that stage where that song reminds people of me, so that's pretty nice.
I've never seen the advert, and I do have Barocca every day as well.
If you watch TV at some point between like 7 to 10 during the week, it'll probably come on. Just because that's generally when people tend to tweet it to me, so it's pretty nice. It's pretty cool.
You got anything, Steve, on it?
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about yourself outside of wrestling. Do you want to tell us a little bit about some of your other interests and other bits and bobs that you get up to?
Yeah, so like before wrestling even happened, like I went to university, I got a degree. I've got like outside of wrestling, I do have a career outside of that where I'm working in the finance industry. I work in banking. Okay. So yeah, like when I finished university, I spent a year living in New York on an internship program out there, which was pretty cool. I ended up working for a bank out there. And the best thing about that year in the US was I got to go to loads of wrestling shows, which was amazing. I ended up going to like Mania 29, Mania 30. That was an amazing year. That was great. I mean, just the fact that I was able to do that year and come out of it doing well for myself, that almost gave me the belief that I could, do something in wrestling. Probably subconsciously, just because like I finished uni and like I was a bit lost for a bit in terms of trying to find work, and then this New York thing came up, and I was just like, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I'd get to go to the US and spend a year living in America and New York of all places. And it's weird, like in a weird way, like doing that 1 year out there, and then like I moved to London, living in London and stuff like that. It kind of gave me that belief of like, well, if I do put my mind to it, I can actually like it's amazing how like just the human brain works, and it's like if you put your mind to something, you'd be amazed what you can achieve. And like, I mean, in terms of like applying that to like wrestling, like from considering what I've done in 2 years, I never thought like 2 years ago that I'd be as busy as I am in wrestling now, and like people would actually know who I am and stuff like in such a short amount of time. So, because like I said, for me, like I mentioned before, like just stepping into a ring was achievement enough in training, or like even having the one match, and like that's how I take it wrestling now. Like my main aim with this now is to just take it as far as it goes and like put a full effort in terms of like, you know, trying to get in the best shape as well. Like these last couple of weeks, couple of months, I've really been trying to focus on like getting myself in good shape and stuff, and just having that self-belief of like, if you believe in yourself, then sky's the limit. You never know, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? There's more opportunity now in British wrestling than there ever was. I mean, to be honest, there's more opportunity in all of wrestling now than there ever was. So anything can happen. You just have to work hard, and like I said, you put your mind to something, you'd be surprised what you can achieve. So,
how does how does work intertwine with wrestling?
So for the last, probably I would say since like June, July time, because I wanted to do a full run on the summer camps, I've actually taken a break from work, just because, like I said, like I wanted to do like, I did the full summer run this year for NGW at Butlins. So it actually meant that I took a bit of time off work, which was nice, just because I got to wrestle full time almost, 4 or 5 days a week, which is pretty awesome. Because I just want to do that experience of working on the camps, especially with like the NGW crew that we've got as well. There's so many good wrestlers on there that I got to wrestle with and just spend time learning from. But yeah, even before that, it's busy. It's very busy, like balancing like a normal 9 to 5 job, going to the gym, training 3-4 times a week, and then wrestling on the weekends. You just have to try and find that balance, to be honest with you. And like, I'm going back to work pretty soon now, and I'm going to have to find that balance. But just the fact that I've had that taste of being like full-time wrestling, and wrestling's all I've been doing for the last few months. I've got that taste for it now, so now I can go back to like my career and start, you know, putting a bit of money away and investing a bit more money into wrestling, while still like establishing myself more and getting busier when it comes to wrestling and stuff. So like, it'll be busy, but it'll be like a good type of busy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, the finance sector is not necessarily known for being particularly flexible as well. So is that going to be something that you're going to try and combat when you're going back into work?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, especially like the way, like the places that I've worked at in the past have always been quite flexible with stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, like a lot of the places, like they understand obviously like we all have lives outside of work. With wrestling, it can get a bit difficult. I don't know, but time will tell. Time will tell. I still want to, you know, I've still got career aspirations outside of wrestling as well, which is something that I never want to, because like, you never know, wrestling could end. It could all end tomorrow, and like, it's one of the things that I learned off like Jim Ross, listening to his podcast, saying that, you know, always have a backup plan. You should always have a backup plan, and luckily I've been able to have that, where I've got a degree and I've got like some work experience and stuff. So like for me, touch wood, it won't end tomorrow, but if it ever did, I could very happily walk away thinking, I've done amazing. Like, it's amazing what I've achieved in that amount of time, and like, I'd happily walk away from it thinking, wow, like, you know, this is what I've achieved, and go back to like picking my career up and stuff. But until that happens, if and when that happens, like, I'm legit just going to try and take both things and take them as far as I go, especially wrestling. Like, it is for wrestling, for me, it is like, just take it as far, just work hard at it and just take it as far as it will go, really, to wherever that may be.
You said that you had some time over in New York, and just at the start of the podcast, you mentioned that you'd got into WWE as a child. Did you manage to catch any WWE shows while you're in New York or over in Canada?
No, absolutely. Like I said, like I ended up going to Mania 29, and then Mania 30. I went to like Money in the Bank in 2013 in Philly. Just like that Norwich region is so good for wrestling stuff, and WWE are always in that area. So I managed to go to quite a few shows. I ended up going to like Madison Square Garden for like Hall of Fame that year as well. Like, it was amazing. It was just surreal. A lot of it, just being at these places, thinking like, bloody hell, like, what am I doing here? It's crazy. But again,
It's safe to
great
say
experience.
you're
It's like,
still a WWE fan then.
oh yeah, massively. That's where like when I was a kid, like I didn't really know what WCW was. I didn't know it existed. Like I was a kid that thought that the Invasion storyline was a shoot. Do you know what I mean? Where like, because I was 10 years old, I legit thought that all these guys that came from WCW were legit gonna beat WWE in Survivor Series, and then that would be the death of WWE or WWF at the time. Like, I didn't know. I remember going to the library. My dad used to take us to the library when we were young on the weekend and stuff, and like finding out about a book about WCW, and then like I looked at it and it had like Goldberg in the front, and I was just like, "What the hell is this? This is different." That's where like I discovered what WCW was, and like it was amazing. Like I was just, wow, there's this whole other world outside of WWE. And like obviously, as I've gotten into wrestling in terms of actually doing it, it's expanded my my knowledge of things outside of WWE. Like I really enjoy watching like old school British wrestling, and I enjoy watching New Japan now, and like British wrestling, indie British wrestling, especially like if it's guys that I know. I love watching it. Like they're always putting like free matches up on YouTube and Facebook. A lot of these promotions, so like. I really enjoy watching matches from guys that I've either trained with or that I know or that I've wrestled with before or like mates of mine and stuff. Like I love watching that type of stuff as well as my network subscription where I'll go back and watch all sorts. Yeah, I mean, like I'll go watch like Raw from 2001 and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, it's a treasure trove of shows and different events and things you can watch. It's amazing, really. You mentioned that you'd been to WrestleMania 29. Did you manage to get over to Orlando this past year?
Say that again?
Did you manage to get over to WrestleMania in Orlando this past year?
Did you say November? WrestleMania in November?
No, in this past year in Orlando.
Oh, right. I thought you were going to say no. I didn't. I didn't. But I didn't get myself out there. But it's funny that you ask. It's funny that you ask about this year's WrestleMania. So, WrestleMania this year was during the Easter season, right? And there's a funny story about how I ended up watching WrestleMania this year. So, we were in Bognor Regis for one of the Butlins camps that we did for NGW, and this was on the Sunday, and Mania was about to start at like 11 o'clock at night. So we did the show and we finished up. There was myself, there was Liam Slater, and there was David Graves. There was three of us, and I was driving. So we packed up the ring and everything, and you know, we finished, we got paid and stuff, and like Mania was just about to start, and we were speaking to each other. We was like, lads, like, how are we going to watch WrestleMania? We've got this drive back, and you know, how's this going to happen? So between the three of us, we concocted a contraption of sorts that allowed us to watch WrestleMania whilst driving. That allowed them to watch WrestleMania whilst driving, because technically I'm not allowed to watch a screen whilst I'm driving because of illegals, right? So I was obviously concentrating on the road, making sure that, you know, I got home safe, obviously. And those guys got to enjoy WrestleMania. So how we ended up doing it so my phone contract with 3 has unlimited internet, and Liam has an iPad. So what we did was Liam tethered the internet that I had that was unlimited onto his iPad, banned on WWE Network, got the live stream of Mania coming up, and then connected it with duct tape onto my dashboard so that it flapped down to make it like a sort of a screen with a bit of duct tape so that I didn't have to hold it up. And then we connected I've got like a little Bluetooth connector thing that plays whatever thing through the stereo system. So like we had the sound coming through the stereo system, and we had like a nice iPad that was hanging down via the use of duct tape on like my front console, like my center console in the car, with Mania streaming on it. And it was probably like from Bognor back to where I'm in Dewsbury, it's probably like a 5-6 hour drive. And WrestleMania this year was around 5-6 hours. So yeah, that's how we watched Mania this year, and legit had to pull over onto the hard shoulder when the Hardy Boys came back, and like I was obviously concentrating on the road.
Obviously,
and then obviously. But I could hear their music, and I saw the lads going crazy for it, and I was like, right, I don't care. I stopped the car on the side of the road. I mean, mind you, this is like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning now. There's really no one driving. It's a Sunday. It's like a Monday morning at 2, 3 o'clock. I pulled over on the hard shore. I was like, right, boys, rewind that. We're watching that again. I don't care if I'm driving. Like, we're stopping for this. And yeah, it was awesome. It was the most unique, most amazing way to watch WrestleMania. It was sick. It was brilliant. I loved it.
It certainly seems like that degree didn't go to waste with all that duct tape and the iPads being involved.
Mate, that's it. Well, like I said, through wrestling, you end up like, I mean, I'm well educated, but to be completely honest, like, a lot of my education has come through the last 2 years of being in wrestling. You just learn how to be, savvy with things. In terms of, like, you know, all that stuff. Like, Liam's really good at that. Like, it was just like, we just came up with this idea, and it was just like, well, right, I've got an iPad, I've got duct tape. And then I was just like, well, yeah, I've got this Bluetooth connector and I've got a limited internet, so let's put all of our ideas together and let's make this thing. And it ended up being like one of the most memorable manias. And like, so like, you know, 2 years prior to that, I was sat in like the Superdome watching Mania 30. 2 years later, I was coming back from a wrestling show, having wrestled on the show, watching it on an iPad whilst driving. And both experiences were very memorable. But in two very different ways. But it's great. That's wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously you mentioned the Hardy Boys returning. Us two were quite lucky that we were all there for that, and it was awesome. I mean, I think I nearly cried, but don't tell anyone.
It's brilliant. It really is. Like, for me, like it was both times that I went. It was a very emotional experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's cool. It's something that you grow up as a kid wanting to do. So like, I can completely understand how emotional it can get. It's just like, wow, I actually made it.
Yeah, I mean, there was actually one guy who we were with,
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Jason. Sorry, guys. Just at home. Sorry to sort something out. Sorry, carry on.
The same as a guy who was with us. Well, he actually went to the toilet because he thought he was going to be the new day coming out.
Yeah, big mistake. Messed up, didn't he? Never take your eyes off it. You never know what can happen.
Oh, that was nuts.
He messed up.
Did half, yeah. Come back to, you know, the religion side of it. How did you cope with Ramadan and wrestling?
So this year I made a concerted effort. It was a bit of a personal. It was a personal aim of mine to do it. Like, growing up Muslim and stuff, like, I'd always practiced Ramadan. And this year, like, I really wanted to make an effort to keep on my fast but still wrestle at the same time. Difficult. It was very difficult. I'll admit there were times where, like, I was going out and wrestling whilst having not ate at all throughout the day. It was very difficult, but it was something that I managed to do all 30 days of. And, like, personally for me, it was just an achievement that I'm quite proud of, the fact that I did it the whole way and stuff. It was just an experience. Like, my body ended up going through, like, all sorts as well, in terms of, like, I just noticed a big change in my body. Some for the better, some for the worse. I don't know. But yeah, it was an experience. It really was. But for me, it was a big personal achievement. Just the fact that I was able to do all 30 days and not miss one, and still, like, wrestle more or less a full-time schedule during that time. So yeah, it was. It like, I never did it to show anyone apart from myself. Obviously, like, a lot of the boys noticed that I wasn't eating anything, and then obviously when they'd ask, I'd tell them, like, it's Ramadan and I'm fasting and stuff. But yeah, everyone was very supportive, and, like, I got, like, a lot of support from the guys in the back, but then also, like, when I told people that came to the shows to watch as well, they all knew, and, like, obviously I made it public knowledge on Twitter and stuff that I was doing it, and, like, I received a lot of good support. And, like, that's the one good thing about wrestling. Like, you can come from whatever background, and you can be whatever religion, and, like, someone like a Jack Sexsmith will show you that, you know, you can be of whatever sexual orientation. And like, wrestling brings all these different types of people together. You know what I mean? and that's kind of like what's magical about it in many ways. So yeah, that was an amazing experience. I've managed to do that for the whole month somehow. I'm glad it's over though.
I mean, you mentioned obviously the boundaries that with obviously Jack Sexsmith, he brings a different take on wrestling and everything else. You were at TNT. Those comments were made during the Ospreay and Dunn match. I don't know if there are still some people out there who are against certain types of things. Have you ever come across any racism or anything?
Personally, no. If I'm completely honest, like especially in wrestling, like in life, when I was growing up, yes, a lot of it. Just because of the area that I grew up in, and like in the mid-90s as well. So like personally, I was born in Pakistan. I immigrated to this country when I was like 5 years old. So I copped quite a bit in like high school and in junior school and stuff. Some of the nasty stuff. But as I've gotten older, I feel like me getting older, learning how to deal with it, just because I copped it quite bad at a young age, and the fact that like I feel like especially in this country, like Muslims and Asians have integrated quite well at like the public level, like when it comes to like no matter what the media will try and tell you, or like the odd ones here and there that will obviously spoil it for all the rest of us. On the ground, I feel like we've done a good job of integrating ourselves into the British culture and stuff, and I feel like we are kind of a part of it. But when it comes to wrestling, no, it's never been like that. I mean, in many ways, if anything, it's helped me out in terms of like the character I'll portray out there and stuff. Like, I like to think of myself as like a positive representation of like British Asians and British Muslims in this country, and I like to use wrestling as like a vehicle to show that to at least the wrestling world, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, obviously there's yourself, there's Prince Amin, and there is I forget his name, Monty. I forget his wrestling name.
Oh yeah, Monty, yeah, absolutely.
Mustafa Ali, that's his wrestling name, Mustafa Ali. Is there any other young Asian wrestlers coming through that we should keep an eye on?
Oh mate, there's loads. Like I thought there was only a handful until like I started getting into British wrestling, and like when I started training at different places and stuff, and like it's weird. It's one of those things where like you see another Asian wrestler and you look at each other from the other side of the room. It's just like, oh, so like you're Asian and you're wrestling, but me too as well. How cool is this? And then like you automatically have that weird bond with each other. It's crazy how that works. But like there's a bunch of them, and obviously like there's me, there's Prince Amin, there's Monty, like you say. There's these three lads up at ICW, Pure Gangster, if you've ever heard of them at all. They're hilarious. Like if you go on like ICW's page and look them up, they're absolutely hilarious. Like three lads, there's Saqib Ali, Donny T, and there's the third lad whose name I know his real name. I don't know his wrestling name, but I don't want to give it away. Prince Affad, that's the one. Prince Affad. Those three lads, like they're Scottish, they're from Glasgow, but those three lads are Pakistani origin. They're British Muslims. They're doing great stuff out there, and there's a couple of guys. There's a lad at like Preston City Wrestling that's coming through as well. Called Sheik. He's called Sheik O'Sham. He's in great shape. I've trained with him. Like I spent a bit of time like training with him at like Bubblegums in Manchester, where I used to go down. There's quite a few of us coming through now. And again, I feel like there's so many people generally coming through in wrestling now, so it's only bound to happen. It's only natural that there'll be more people, like for example, like British Muslims going through into wrestling as well. There's a bunch of young guys out there that are like that, like more so than I thought. I mean, the real pioneer of it all, I would say, is RJ. Well, really, Prince Amin and RJ Singh, like those were like. There was a time for about probably 10+ years where those two guys were probably the only like British Asian wrestlers that were flying the flag for all of us. So I like to think of RJ Singh as my wrestling dad. So
yeah,
pretty cool.
I think Prince Amin's from, is he Dewsbury Batley way?
Yeah. I actually so Prince Amin is from Batley, which is just next to Dewsbury. I think he lives in like Pontefract now, but I knew Prince Amin before he started wrestling, just because like we're both part of that Asian community in Dewsbury and Batley, and like those Asian communities are very tightly knit, so everyone knows everyone. But yeah, I knew Prince Amin well before like I ever started getting into wrestling and stuff. He used to play football with us back in the day and stuff. And like I didn't tell him when I went out to Canada, and like when I made it public after I had my first match in Canada is when I made it public on like Facebook and stuff. I put some pictures out saying, "Oh look, this is what I'm doing now." And like he messaged me straight away saying, "Bloody hell, I didn't realise like you should have told me that you were starting to wrestle and stuff." But like yeah, he was like one of the guys. He was one of the first guys to like message me about it, just because obviously he knew me before I ever started wrestling and stuff. But yeah, he's an awesome guy, man. Like he's ridiculously entertaining inside and outside of the ring. And like if you go ask anyone in wrestling that wrestles that knows him, they'll probably say the same thing.
Yeah, he's a small world. He actually went to school with my best friend and a few other friends in Batley. I think I met him when he was about 16.
Yeah.
I think he worked at White Rose in McDonald's or something.
Oh, Prince Amin.
Yeah, Mojo. They all called him Mojo.
Yeah, Mojo. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like that's what I've always called him. Like I've always known him as Mojo from like back in the day. I've known him since I was like 17, 18 myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a man. He is just straight up. He's a man. He's awesome. He's brilliant. He's absolutely great. I've had the chance to wrestle him a couple of times now. So yeah, it's been amazing. It's been amazing to be in there with him. It's great.
I think he had a match with Cody Rhodes' wife, didn't he?
Yes, he did. He had a match with Brandy Rhodes. I mean, yeah, he's like one of the, like it was great to see him get onto like What Culture and stuff after, especially being around for as long as he had as well. And I think like him alongside many of the guys as well, the What Culture shows have really helped get his name out there and get more eyes on him, and just people get to see just like, you know, how good he is in terms of like on the mic and as an entertainer and just as a personality. So yeah. And I've not seen that match, but I'm sure it was entertaining as hell.
I don't know. I've seen social media recently. You've been wearing a What Culture t-shirt. Have you ever been on What Culture?
No, I haven't. I've not personally been on What Culture. That's not me trying to wear the What Culture t-shirt, trying to get on there. I helped out on one of the shows a few months ago at What Culture, and I got a free t-shirt. And it's hard to say no to a free t-shirt. So when you get into wrestling, you try and get as many freebies as you can. All of my t-shirts now seem to be wrestling t-shirts that I've gotten for free from somewhere or another, either promotions that I've worked for or promotions that I like, or promotions that I've helped out, you know, with ring setup and stuff like that. So yeah, I've not paid for a t-shirt in a long time just because of that. So that's just probably me being cheap and trying to, you know, cut corners and save a bit of money, but who isn't these days, right?
I think I might try that next time. Try and get a Mia Jordan Chicken Cottage t-shirt. Maybe if you come and get us, I might do you a special price. Maybe not free. You know what I mean? I have actually already got one.
I know you do. But yeah, we'll see. We'll maybe do like buy one get one half price, something like that. You know what I mean? Corner shop rules. Market stall rules.
What is the deal behind the Chicken Cottage logo?
I like Chicken Cottage.
Is that all it is?
Hey, for me, so like growing up, for me, obviously I only eat halal food, right? So growing up, all the other kids would go to McDonald's and get cheeseburgers and chicken burgers, and I'd always be stuck with like a fillet of fish. So basically, it would crap on it. Like I couldn't even go to like KFC because of like the chicken's not halal. Now usually I've got halal KFC, which is amazing, but for the longest time, like we didn't really have anything, and then I discovered Chicken Cottage, which is basically like a halal version of KFC almost, and like a whole new world was opened up to me, and it was the best thing in the world. At that point, I must have been like 16, 17 at the time, and I was just like, wow, I can eat whatever I want from here. This is great. Hence the love for Chicken Cottage that started. So it is really as simple as that. And like I said I mentioned it in a promo once. There's a promotion called North Wrestling in Newcastle that I work for. And I mentioned it in like a film or something, and like Chicken Cottage is really popular in Newcastle, and they just latched onto it, and now every time I go there, that's all they shout. So I made some t-shirts to try and capitalise on it, so that's where that comes from.
I'm trying to think
Contrary to popular belief, I don't have a sponsorship with them, but I am open to it. If they want to give me some money, I'm more than happy to have a sponsorship deal if they want to pay me a bit of money.
You know, you're giving him free advertising. So I think
you completely cut off there. So whatever you said there, say that again because you completely cut off. Sorry.
I'm saying you never know.
But you never know. That's it.
Right, I think we've come into the end now. So if the listeners want to find you on social media, where can
Twitter and Facebook are probably the best bets. I'm most active on Twitter. That'd be at I am Amir Jordan on Twitter, and just type my name on Facebook and I'll come up. I've got a little fan page thing on Facebook as well. But yeah, follow me on Twitter. I need the numbers. I need them numbers. So whoever you are, give us a follow. That'll really help me out.
And is there anywhere where they
can
like T-shirts online, or you just contact you?
Just contact me. My DMs are open, so slide into them or come and see me at the main stand at a wrestling show near you.
I mean, obviously, we touched on earlier about you've got future shows. But, are you doing BWE this weekend in Halifax?
I am. I'm doing BWE this weekend in Halifax. I've got my calendar up, but yeah, I've got some pretty cool places that I'm debuting pretty soon as well, which I'm not yet allowed to talk about. But yeah, like in terms of shows coming up, I've got True Grit Wrestling, I've got NGW, got like the half-term camps coming up for that.
Are you doing Tidal next Saturday?
I'm not on Tidal because I've got NGW. The half-term camps run starts there, so I'll be away for a week doing that stuff. But yeah, I've got 3CW coming up in November. Elevation, which is a really good promotion down in Leicester. North Wrestling, November 4th. I've got a really busy few months coming up, but I've still got some open dates and stuff. So if there's any promoters out there listening, please get in touch. So yeah, I've got a few dates open as well. But yeah, they're getting busy, which is great. Like it's great just to be busy and just to have shows to look forward to.
Just before we go, would you ever consider starting your own promotion?
God knows. It's hard. It is hard, like stuff like that, promoting the show and stuff. Especially when it comes to like a return on investment. I don't know. Hard to say. I might be more inclined further down the line in a few years to maybe open up a school than a promotion. I like to think I'm a better teacher than a promoter, personally.
So I've just noticed that Bully Boy Carter's just started his own promotion. That's what.
No, has he?
Yeah, I think it's DN Wrestling down in Retford.
Oh wow! I've wrestled Bully Boy Carter quite a few times.
Because
down in Retford. Wow, maybe I'll have to get in touch with him.
Well, he has just announced his first wrestler, which got me thinking that if you reminded me, it is actually Prince Amin.
Oh, is it? Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, maybe I'll have to get in touch with Prince Amin then.
Yes. But no, it's been great having you on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for...
thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice to speak to you.
I would say I'd see you at Tidal. Be there. So I'll probably see you. Are you doing Spooky Slam in October? When is that? That's in a couple of weeks.
That should be, yeah. That's in a few weeks, isn't it? Yeah, I'll see you there, absolutely.
Right. Great, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us on.
Cheers. Bye now.
Cheers, guys. Take care. Thanks, bye.
Don't forget to tune in next time for more fighting talk. Please don't take that out of context. I was talking about wrestling. Catch you next time.